All right, good afternoon, everybody. I have a guest today. His name is Jacob. His channel is The False Prophet. It's quite easy to find, unlike mine. You can go ahead and go over there and have a look. The thing that we're going to be discussing today is Islamic polemicism. So before we get into Surah 41:11 and how Jacob's going to explain how that debunks Islam in effect, we're just going to ask a couple of questions. So, Jacob, thanks for coming on. And how did your interest in Islam arise? Like, do you have a background with Islam?
Well, how my interest came about for Islam is basically it's connected to the type of person I am. I'm the type of person who I have an investigative mind. So anything that's like an on the edge topic dealing with like sci-fi type information, anything talking about evolution, the creation of the universe, anything that's based upon like metaphysics, religion, those type of things interest me. So basically, because of my natural demeanor about things, when I was on the internet looking up other things, it just so happened I saw a few videos about Islam debates coming up my timeline. And I started, getting interested in it. But even before the like advent of YouTube and everything, I had already purchased a book about the origins of Islam. So my interest level was already there, but the internet and the debates and everything, it just took it to the next level.
Great. And do you have a faith of your own?
Yes, I follow the Judeo-Christianity religion. That's my background.
Yep, great. All right, then. So we may as well just jump straight into it. At some point, I'm going to share my screen to facilitate like what you're chatting about. Hopefully, you'll be able to see it, but for sure, the people watching the video will be able to see it, she said confidently. So you just let me know when you want me to pop the hadith or the surah onto the screen, and we'll just go from there. So I'm going to let you speak now. So Surah 41:11 and how it debunks Islam. So I'm going to share my screen because I assume you're going to go to this verse first. Right, 2 seconds. Right. So can we see? Hopefully, any second now, we should be able to see that. Can you see that yet?
Yes, I can see it. It's kind of small. So if
yeah,
you could
I'll read
it.
I'll read it for the benefit of anybody watching who doesn't have their glasses with them. So it's sorry.
Actually, I have my laptop in front of me, so I can actually pull it up.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It's quite a short verse.
So what is it? Surah 41:11.
Yeah. And I'll just read it out because you're going to discuss it anyway. So it's then he directed himself to the heaven while it was smoke and said to it and to the earth, come, in brackets, into being. Willingly or by compulsion? They said, we have come willingly.
Okay. Allow me to read it.
Yeah.
Allow me to read it as well. Okay. Surah 41:11. Is my face showing on the screen now?
Yeah, I can see you in a small section.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Surah 41:11, and we're reading the Sahih International Version, okay? And it says, then he directed himself to the heaven while it was smoke and said to it and to the earth, come into being willingly or by compulsion. They said, we have come willingly. Now, this one verse totally destroys Islam. I have a video on my channel where I already discussed this, but I'm presenting it now to a wider audience. Now, it's a couple of problems within this passage. Now, the first thing Muslims say, they tell you that there is nothing like Allah nothing can compare to him, and that he exists outside of time and space, and that before anything was created, only Allah existed by himself and in and of himself. But this verse disproves that. Okay? Now, notice what it says. It says, then he directed himself to the heaven while it was smoke, and said to it and to the earth, come into being. Now, when it's talking about the earth right here, it's talking about the formless earth.
Right.
When the earth was without form, without shape, okay? And the smoke is the heavens, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in this verse, you have Allah speaking to beings. Notice I said he is speaking to beings, just like himself. And how do we know that he is speaking to beings? Because he asked them a question. He said, come willingly or by compulsion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these are soul beings that have existed alongside Allah for all eternity. How do I know this? Because this is before creation.
Right.
This story is talking about the formation of everything, the heavens and the earth. Okay? So Allah is speaking to soul beings. Now, how do we know that this formless earth and smoke has a soul? Okay, you know why? Because Allah asks, come willingly or by compulsion. The fact that he did that, that's laying out a moral decision, because obedience is something that's understood by beings that have a soul. Right. Decision making is something that's only understood by something that has a soul. Like if God says, like God says in the Bible, I put before you life and death. Choose you this day whom you will serve. So you have Allah speaking to the smoke and earth saying, will you come willingly or by compulsion? So these are not inanimate states of being that he is speaking to. Because an inanimate state of being, you wouldn't ask it a question like that. But it gets better.
For sure, it wouldn't answer you.
It wouldn't answer you, okay? But it gets better, all right? They said, when you use the word they, that's a plural, it's like a plural noun or pronoun, right?
Yeah.
It's like a plural form of a pronoun, they.
Yeah.
So when you say they, and then behind the they, you have the word said, you have just proven that you are talking to beings because you're using the word they.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? That's a pronoun, a plural pronoun. They said, they made a decision. They had a conscience to choose right from wrong.
Yeah.
So that means they had a soul. They got a soul in them, right?
Yeah.
Because he gave them the choice.
They've got
he gave them the choice to come willingly or by compulsion. Okay? They said, we have come willingly. Okay? So they decided to come willingly. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I've not heard this before. Yeah.
How is this damaging to Islam? Because Muslims talk about the Trinity, right? They say that Allah is the father to no one. He begets not.
He doesn't have a girlfriend. Yeah.
It says he begets not, nor is he begotten, right?
Yeah.
Okay. If that's the case, if he is the father to no one, he begets not, neither is he is begotten, then who is the father or mother of these two soul beings?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a
you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do actually,
So this in itself has created a trinity that Muslims will reject when Christians, you know, we believe in the Trinity, they will reject the Trinity, but in their own Qur'an, in Surah 41:11, you have a Trinity because you have beings that don't have a beginning.
Yeah.
Nowhere in this reference does it say Allah created the smoke and Allah created the formless earth. It doesn't say that.
No.
So these two beings, they always existed, and this is outside of time and space. How do we know it's outside of time and space? Because this was before the creation of the sun. This was before the creation of the moon. This was before the creation of gravity. None of that existed yet.
Yeah.
And in the Quran, just to check a reference, doesn't it speak about the moon and the sun was set in place to keep time? Does it say something like that?
I think so. I can check that in a minute for you, if you'd like.
But anyway, this is before time and space because there is no sun, there is no planets.
There can be no day and night if there's no sun and moon.
Right. There's no sun and moon. This is outside of time and space. And it says that Allah directed himself to the heaven. Okay? That's another problem. If he directed himself, you know what I mean? And this is a false translation. It says in Arabic that he turned.
Right.
See, the Sahih international people, they very deceitful. I have seen plenty verses where they twerk the verse when they translate it into English because they realize that if we put it out like this, it's a contradiction and somebody's going to catch it.
Yeah.
Like me, myself. So what they do, they doctor the scriptures. They doctor their verses because in Islam, they are betting on you being ignorant. So the more ignorant you are, the better chance they have keeping their lie afloat. So that's why they doctor the verses and they do things like this, okay? Now, another problem we have, now, they say Allah is everywhere all at once. If he's everywhere all at once, why would he have to direct his attention somewhere look towards something? Because
can I just point out another contradiction? It also says that he is always above his throne. So he's everywhere at once, but he's also always on his throne, and yet he comes down to the lowest heaven to hear the prayers of the believers. So at any one time, and it's always, he comes down in the evening time to hear the prayers, but obviously throughout the world, it's always evening somewhere, which means he would be literally, up and down I don't want to say, but up and down a lot. Yeah, so.
Because the time zones, yeah.
Yeah.
But right here, okay, it says that he directed himself. Okay, this is the formula of God. Omniscient, omnipresent, and omnipotent. Omnipotent means all powerful. Omnipresent means the ability to be everywhere at once. And omniscient, it means all wise.
Yeah.
So if he is omnipresent, he wouldn't have to direct his attention anywhere because it will already be there.
And we don't even have the problem of currently Muslims say he doesn't enter creation, but as you've just discussed, creation hasn't happened yet. So he would literally have been everywhere. Yeah.
Right. Here's another thing, Kay, I want to point out. Now, this is Allah's first time speaking the eternal Arabic, the divine Arabic of the Quran to these beings.
Yeah.
Because it's not recorded anywhere else where Allah spoke to the smoke and the formless earth. Nowhere else. Am I wrong or right?
Yeah, it's quite early on. So if it's pre the earth, he had nobody to speak to because, as we know, there was no spirit and no sun, as in like the Trinity to commune with. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now, because this is the first time he spoke to this smoke and a formless earth, and it responded, that means this smoke and formless earth, we already proved that it had a soul because it made a decision of based upon moral, to obey or to disobey. Okay, so these beings, they understood obedience. Now, it's a couple problems here, because if Allah is God, first of all, he asked these beings what would they want to do. When you read the Bible, God didn't do that. He spoke it into existence. He said, let there be light.
Yeah.
He commanded the things to take place. He said, let the, help me out, okay, the firmament divide from the...
Let the earth and the waters be separate. He separated the sky, the heavens from the earth. He then separated the dry land from the water, the light from the darkness. He said, let there be light, literally, and there was. So all of his initial commands were, happen, and it happened, basically.
His word. So even the Bible shows that Yahweh, his word is powerful. It speaks things into existence. But here, and the Muslims say, only thing Allah has to say is be, and that thing is be. You don't see that taking place right here. And this is at the very beginning of everything. We don't see Allah saying be. No, he's asking. He's begging. What have they decided?
He's threatening, to be fair. He's saying, come, or I'll make you come. Which is no choice at all, really. Yeah.
He said willingly or by compulsion.
Exactly.
But they say there's no compulsion in religion.
Yeah. Oh,
you know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, I'll dispute that one.
Yeah, and listen, so here's another thing. So Allah is asking, he's asking, giving them a choice to make. So he's not saying be. And the other thing is, these beings, how did they know the eternal speech of Allah? And this is the first time he ever spoke to them. Where did they go to school to learn the eternal speech of Allah? You know what that means?
In Arabic, yeah.
Yeah, how do they know what to respond and to say? You know what that means? It means these beings are all knowing. They have the ability. Muslims say that Allah is unlike anything. But if that's the case, if Allah has, if one of his abilities is omniscience, which is all knowing, then you can't say that Allah is the only thing with some omniscience, because these beings, they knew the eternal speech of Allah.
You can't even say he's, you can't, from the Quran, you can't even say he's the only creator, because he himself rather modestly says that he is the best of creators, showing that there are more, and Isa creates in the Quran by the permission. But just because you have permission doesn't mean you couldn't do it without permission. You're not drawing the power from somebody else. You're just saying, I'm allowed to do this now. So, yeah.
Right. And look, something else. He, what's the last thing I said, Kay?
You were talking about the eternal language, the language that he commanded the earth and the smoke. So how did they know the language? Unless they've been hanging around for eternity and they'd kind of, he was muttering to himself maybe, or I don't know.
Yeah, how did they know what to say in response if they didn't have the type of mind that Allah has? Because you got to look at it like this. If Allah is not like anything in creation, that means he couldn't speak directly to these beings. Let me explain to you, because I think very deep, and sometimes I go deeper than what the average person is able to pick up, so I'm going to slow it down, not being arrogant or anything. Now, when you have a phone device and somebody else have a phone device, in order for you to communicate with the next person, there has to be some type of transceiver in your phone device, a transceiver and or receiver in your phone device to make it compatible with the other person's phone device,
Yeah.
so you can speak to each other. You have to be on the same frequency.
Yeah.
So if there is nothing like unto Allah, that means he can't speak to anything, because in order for communication to take place, you have to be on a frequency, and there has to be something inside of the person that's communicating, and inside of the person that's being communicated to, that is common to both parties.
The other, the other thing I'd add is just off the top of my head is that if there can be nothing like unto him, he shouldn't rather have created humans who communicate by speech in Arabic, because if that's his own holy, language, other than the fact that he gives each prophet to the nation in the tongue of their choice, kind of thing, just the knowledge of Arabic, the transmission of Arabic, the understanding of Arabic when the earth and the smoke spoke back to him means that he is like unto them. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. There has to be something inside of each device, using the phone example. Now, applying that phone example to beings that have souls. We communicate on frequency levels. So if I don't have anything in me that's not inside of God, then he can't communicate with me, because there is no link. And that's why Islam, that's another reason why Islam don't make sense, because they say that Allah is not a spirit. But we know that because we have a spirit inside of us, because the Bible tells us that we have the Spirit of God in us, because he breathed his spirit inside of us. That's the common shared thing inside of man.
Yeah, we're made in his image. That's it.
Yeah, we made his image. So we are a reflection of God. We have our spirits come from God. Muslims say that Allah is not a spirit. So if he is not a spirit, then what is the linkage that is allowing him to communicate with you? Because again, in every device, there has to be something compatible in one walkie-talkie in order to communicate with somebody else on another walkie-talkie. So you got to have that. You got to be able to channel in on the same frequency. You got to have something in order to be able to communicate, because you can't communicate with something that's not.
Something else
you can't communicate.
That just popped into my mind is I think it's a hadith. It could be a surah. It's talking about Allah will come to them in a shape which they do not recognize, speaking about Muslims, and they will seek refuge in Allah from this apparition because they don't recognize him. And then it goes on to describe, it says, and then he will appear in a shape that they do recognize. And in order for them to recognize him, he has to be, firstly, he has to be in time and space. Secondly, he has to have a previously exhibited shape. And one of the hadith goes on to describe the Dajjal, who is the Antichrist. And it tells us that he is hen-toed and deep-seated and he has one eye. And reassuringly, the verse then finishes with but if you're afraid, know that your Lord does not have one eye. So we know that Allah doesn't, well, we know that he's hen-toed and deep-seated, strangely, but we also know that he does not have one eye, implying to me that he has two eyes and he's got this like not so nice visage. And just that links with the language that we're speaking about here, the fact that before time he had some companions, whether they were still sentient beings with some sort of consciousness to be able to understand this command to come into being and to respond accordingly, to make a decision, confer amongst themselves between the smoke and the earth, and then get back to Allah and let him know, yeah, all right then. So all of that together to me doesn't suggest absolute holy uniqueness. So sorry to butt in, but carry on.
Oh, no. So making my point again, see, the Muslims, they say that there's nothing like Allah, right? So I just got to drive this home. It's like, if I got an antenna, right? You got an antenna. That's the common bond that we share for communication.
Yes.
Allah is not a spirit. That's what Muslims say. The Muslim say he has a spirit. So what is your spirit? And I'm bringing all this in together to relate it back to Surah 41:11. What is the linkage that enables you to hear from Allah? Because if there is nothing like inside of you that's like inside of him, communication is impossible. Christians don't have that problem because we share the spirit of God. His spirit is inside of us. That's the communication link. Yep. That's the antenna that we have, that our God has. That's the link. Our bond is the spirit that we have. So that's the problem. And that's the problem that Muslims have. And for this verse, relating it back to Surah 41:11, it proves that Allah is not the only eternal being. In another sense, proving that he is not the only thing that's like himself and there is nothing else like him. Because we have proven you have omniscient beings who understand the eternal speech of Allah. They didn't go to Arabic school like you have brought up. So how did they know this? And they have something inside of them that Allah has inside of him, because if they didn't, like I just explained, it wouldn't be possible. There would be no linkage. So Allah is speaking directly to them. So that means they have an outlet plug that's connected to Allah in order for him to be able to speak to him, to them. Because if they didn't, the Muslims got to ask themselves, if they didn't have a connection in them like what's inside of Allah, then what was linking them to be able to hear Allah?
I got it. I got it. You know why I've got it? Because I've got the same kind, I've got ears and you've got a mouth, exactly what you're discussing. They had something to be able to receive and transmit, and so did Allah. So there's a similarity right there. I'm going to stop sharing the screen for 1 minute, just so we come back.
For every being that communicates with each other, you gotta have something that can receive frequencies and transmit frequencies inside of you with the person that's communicating with you in order for communication to take place. But Muslims say that God does not have a spirit. He's not a spirit. So how is he communicating? How did he communicate to the
Oh no, I know this one. I know this one. He communicates through a book and through some dude who turns up and strangles people. Yeah. Oh, burning. Yeah. He does a few little. He seems to come in handy for Muhammad. I would say that. Like Aisha said, she narrated. I'm gonna get the words wrong. I'm paraphrasing. She basically said, "You're so lucky, Muhammad, because everything you do, Allah reveals a verse that says it's all right to do that." Like, she was quite surprised at how favored he was of God.
Right. So don't they say that Allah, he ordered Jibril to transmit the Quran to Muhammad? But how did he speak to Jibril to do that if there is nothing like Allah inside of Jibril? So how did he communicate to Jibril? You get what I'm saying?
No, I really do, yeah.
It goes back to basic premises of technology, how all technology operates. Within all computer systems, there has to be a way of correspondence for it to take place. But with this Allah, there is no connection whatsoever. So how is he even communicating? So, okay, I think I've driven that home enough. I had to do that. I had to do that so people can really get it, so they can understand. Because for any naysayer, for any Muslim who look at this and you're a naysayer, you got to prove to us what is the linkage inside of you that connects to Allah for you to communicate with him. Because you told us he's not like anything. Okay, but anyway.
Right, hold up. Wait up, Jacob. I'm going to pause this for 2 seconds because I think that wraps up that section quite well. So give me a second. Right, welcome back. We just heard about Surah 41:11, and now this again is Jacob, and we're gonna get right in with Surah 21:30, which relates somehow, and I can't wait to find out how, to the last Surah that we looked at. So I'm going to share my screen. If I can, yeah. Okay.
Okay. What we have proven so far, and the first part we proved that Allah did not exist outside of time and space by himself. We existed that he was not the only eternal being. We proved that he was not the only omniscient being, because obviously the smoke and the formless earth that Allah was
They were
speaking
sentient.
to,
Yeah.
they understood what he was saying. We also broke down how, you know, how Muslims say that there is nothing like Allah. We smashed that because we proved that communication is only possible via connections between the communicator and the one being communicated to. One has to have an antenna inside of him that can connect to the frequency of the sender. So it's a two-way process. So if there is nothing like Allah, that means us as humans, the beings in 4111, they would have no way of corresponding with Allah. So we proved that. So now, before I speak about 2130, I want to cover one more thing in 4111.
I think I came off the screen, but give me a second. 4130. 4111, sorry. Okay. All right, there it is back again.
Okay. We proved that so you got 4111 back up?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're going to expose another false claim that Muslims make. They say that the Quran is uncreated. Well, we can see in this passage before you, Surah 41:11, that this is a created story. And how do we know that it's created? Because it contains past tense references within the passage. When it says, then he directed himself, the very fact that it has the suffix, the ending ed at the end of the word directed, that means it's a past tense action that took place. So how could something uncreated contain past tense references? I think if you got a sound to make a bomb noise, that's a good time to drop that bomb noise, because that's a bomb right there. How can something boom? How can something created?
My editing skills are not that great, trust me. But go on. I said my editing skills are no, they're not up there yet. But I'll imagine like a boom sound.
Yeah, bomb. So that's where you drop the bomb. So how can something uncreated have past tense references in it? It says that then he directed. The word directed is past tense. Then it says while it was smoke. That's giving a time reference. Wow. You say, you understand, like, I was sitting here while something else was happening.
Yeah.
So that's showing a linear time passing. You see? Wow. While you was cooking, I was watching TV. You get it?
Yeah.
But this is uncreated, right? But it's showing that it has time in it. It's showing that it has past tense in it. Okay. So it's no way that this could be.
Sorry, Jacob. I would expect anyway. I don't know about someone somewhere is going to tell me, oh, it's different in the Arabic, because it always is. Apart from Christian speaking Arabs, like hang on a minute, Arabic speaking Christians don't seem to have that trouble with their own language. But what you would expect from an eternal, uncreated book is from an all-knowing God is either everything is in the future tense because God already knows it's going to happen, or everything is in the past tense because God is currently revealing an eternal book that had foreknowledge, but to an audience who is without foreknowledge. So he's reminding them, as he sometimes does, "Oh prophet, do you remember when such and such?" So he's in the present, he's in the ever present. Our Lord, Yahweh, is always in the present. He is outside of time. He's never in the past only or in the future only, because he is eternal. He is the first and the last. He's there like long after everybody, long before everybody, you know. So you would expect the book to all be in the future tense, all be in the past tense, or all be in the present tense. But
Right.
obviously we find that's not the case. So yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And Kay, another reason why, because they may say, well, this was not they might try to say this wasn't before time and space. We about to get them busted. We about to get them busted with their own Sahih international translators. We're going to show you that these beings were in another dimension outside of time and space. Because even when you look at the verse in front of you, it says, then he directed himself to the heaven while it was smoke and said to it and to the earth, come, and in parentheses they have, into being. Come into being. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're telling something to come into being, being means to come into the physical reality.
Yeah.
So that means these beings lived outside of time and space.
Yeah.
Even
the other interesting thing is to say, so just that, those two sentences alone in English, I'm admitting that much, but to say to something with a name, come into being, so you would expect Allah to be speaking to the emptiness and saying, earth, come into being. You don't direct yourself towards a pre-existent earth and then tell the earth to come into being, because it's like me saying, hey, Jacob, stop being Jacob now. But I've already just called you Jacob. So clearly you were Jacob when I started my sentence, as well as at the end when you go, all right, then, Kay, I'll be Jacob now. Like, so that's another, like, just.
That was very smart of you, Kay.
Yeah.
Kay, that was very smart of you. And I want to reiterate it. What Kay just said is that you have Allah, how is he directing himself to something before he said to something to come into being? Because if it's not in the physical reality yet, how is he directing himself? That's a very good thing you pointed out, Kay.
Thank you.
That was very smart. I like that. Yeah. So you have that, what Kay just pointed out, and the fact that they had to come from somewhere. So if nothing was created yet, where were they coming from? They was coming from outside of time and space, just like Allah. So these beings existed outside of time and space, just like Allah.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, they had the eternal speech of Allah down pat. They understood it very well. They understood, and they also understood the meaning of disobedience even before there was a Qur'an. That's another issue, Kay. So where did they get this moral responsibility from if this is the first time Allah spoke to them? How do they understand disobedience and morality without a Quran? So that means they are gods. They have souls.
I just thought to myself, this is also the first time that Allah has ever been spoken to. And they don't give him any veneration. They don't say, oh, Allah, oh, beneficent, oh, merciful, oh, you are most glorious. They just go, all right, then. Or basically, we have come willingly. Like there's no veneration or respect. Or so it appears just in a literary fashion that they are accustomed and acquainted with the speaker, because they just answer him as an equal, as a kind of, an associate. So yeah.
That's another good one you just pointed out, Kay. That's awesome. I like that. So now we have the fact that they didn't venerate Allah, and that makes so much sense, Kay. Like Allah is supposed to be the God of the universe. They didn't show no veneration whatsoever. So that means they are on the same level.
Mm-hmm.
They existed outside of time and space and everything. So where did they get this understanding? Are they a God? Is there another God that taught them? Or do they already have it inside of them?
Mm.
These are the questions these Muslims have to answer. They talk about the Trinity, but here in the Quran, you have basically the same thing. It's not saying it's 3 in 1, but you still have three, may as well say gods, because uncreated, being uncreated is an attribute of a God. So you got 3 uncreated beings in one verse. That's
it.
Communication between 3 gods, like the Trinity. You got God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. You got 3,
or like Allah and the 3 goddesses who are referenced in the Quran.
Right.
So it's
Exactly.
4 of it, like it's just going 1 extra.
So there you have it. So we have proven that this cannot be uncreated. Let me give them an example, okay?
Mm-hmm.
To say the Quran is uncreated, it's like saying water has been forever frozen. If you're talking about a story of water being forever frozen, nowhere in that narrative can you say anything about the word freezing. Freezing is a present thing that's ongoing, which is shaping
process. Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't say freeze because that's a past tense. So in a narrative of something uncreated, it has to always exist as is, a solid. Water has never been frozen. That's it. The Quran is not like that. It has a linear timeline of events. So that proves it's not uncreated. Let me give them one more example before we go to the 2130, because I got to show this contradiction. Now, to say something is uncreated, but yet it's telling a story, would be like me saying that me and Kay going to the movies to see an uncreated film that has a beginning, a middle, and an ending to the plot.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Not a beginning,
we going to see a movie.
Sure. Yeah.
It don't make sense. We're going to see a movie that has a beginning, a middle, and an ending to it, but it's uncreated. That don't make no sense whatsoever. Okay. Now, something else that to show further how this don't make sense. Kay, can you put up Surah 2130?
Yeah, sure. There you go. Do you want me to read it, or are you gonna? Can you see it from there?
As a matter of fact, let me put it up on my screen as well so I can read it. I like to see it on big, so. And this information that we giving out today, it has never been said before, has it, Kay? This is the first time, so this is also like.
I've not heard it myself, so I haven't even heard what I've said. It just came to me as we were talking.
Yeah, what do you say? This is some. What do you call information when it's said a person like this is some premiere,
like
a world
debut,
premiere?
I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, debut. Yeah, this is like some debut information. So, pulling up Surah 2130.
Yep.
Now, I'm gonna read it. You want to read it, Kay, or you want me to read it?
Yeah, I don't mind. So it's 2130, and it's, have those who disbelieved not considered that the heavens and the earth were a joined entity, and we separated them and made from water every living thing. Then will they not believe?
Boom. Okay. Surah 2130 just proved everything that I was saying. The key word, joint entity. A joint entity, and 4111 proved that it was a entity outside of time and space, because he said come into being, right? Now, this verse is a contradiction to Surah 4111. Because when you read it,
and a couple of others actually that I've just thought of, but go.
Yeah, let me say this. I want to hear what you got to say too.
Yeah.
Surah 2130, it said, have those who disbelieve not considered that the heavens and the earth, and this is a false translation. I gotta point this out. It doesn't say consider, it says, do they not see? That's a fault. And the reason why they didn't put C right there, like it really says in the Arabic, because it's a stupid verse. Because it's Allah going to unseen evidence to validate seen evidence. Because this verse, he's saying, have those who disbelieve not considered the heavens and the earth were a joint entity? How can somebody, but it really says see, how can somebody see that the heavens and the earth were a joint entity, and you are saying that as evidence for why they should believe in Allah when nobody was created during the time of this story or this event, when you saying that the heavens and earth were joined together? So
Also,
how are you? So basically, Allah. So basically,
also,
Allah.
sorry, Jacob. Also, in 41:11, he's not addressing a single entity. He addresses two separate entities in the smoke and the earth, and they, as a plural, answer him in a, as a we, rather than it would be the one unity, the one unified entity saying, yes, I will come into being, and then being separated out into the earth and the smoke. So, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and that's very good what you just said. Because it also points out another thing, Kay, that it's like a trinity. In 2130, it's a trinity because it's saying it's joined. It's two separate.
It's a duality for the, yeah.
It's a duality, right? It's like smoke and earth joined together, but yet they are different, but they in one joined entity. Okay. Now, in this verse, you have Allah saying, so he separated the two. But in the other verse, it says he called them to come together. So which one is it?
Yeah.
Did you catch that one?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
if you read, can you read 41:11 again and compare it to 21:30?
Okay, so 41:11 is this. Then he directed himself to the heaven while it was smoke and said to it and to the earth. So the and is a conjoining word. It joins the two separate things. And to the earth, come, in brackets, into being, willingly or by compulsion. They said, so not one of them, they said, we have come willingly. So that's 41:11.
Right. Okay. So, and that's what 41:11 says, that he told them to come together. And in 21:30, it says that they was joined together. But 41:11 doesn't say anything about them being joined together.
No,
so that's a contradiction. So which one is it? So which one is it?
All right, can I raise another point? I've got one more. So it says, it goes on to say, and we separated them and made from water every living thing. And I would challenge that. I don't have the reference on me because I didn't know this was like what you were going to be discussing. But I know of a verse that says that Adam was created from a clot or a sperm, or I think the dust or the earth, something like that, or the clay. So, I mean, that in itself is like a bit of a discrepancy that Allah doesn't, like in different parts, he says different, he ascribes different origins to Adam. But other than that, we learn here, quite surprisingly, that everything is made from water. And yet he forgets to mention that when discussing the creation of the first man, Adam. So I would consider that, like if this was an essay and I was being asked to grade it, like I would say, well, I need some, like something to tie that narrative up and to, what is the actual original material. Sorry, that's my interjection.
That makes a lot of sense. And something else that I like to point out, it says we separated them and made from water every living thing, okay? But they were already living. But it says that he made, and it says that he separated them and made from water every living thing. But they was already living because he was speaking to them in 41:11. So how were they made out of water? And he said he made it from water after he separated them every living thing. And something else that's going to get them busted. Jinn are made out of fire.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Jinn are made out of fire, but it says right here that all are made from water, every living thing. Don't make sense.
Yeah. I'm beginning to get that vibe.
They was already living.
Yeah.
They was already living, Kay. You get what I'm saying? They was already
Yeah, I do.
alive. He was already speaking to them. They was even alive outside of time and space.
Before
Remember
creation.
how we pointed out?
Yeah.
Yeah, remember how we pointed out he called them into physical being? They was already alive, so they wasn't made out of water like it says in
Well,
21:30.
they're literally uncreated unless there comes a prequel to the Quran with a further story about the state that they were in pre-existence. We have to assume, I guess, that they're eternal also, because if they understand Allah's speech, if they are comfortable enough to address him without any reverence, if they are non-conjoined but in some sort of unity, depending on which verse you go to, they for sure existed before the creation of the official heaven and the official earth, because as we know in Islam, there's more than one heaven anyway. Like, I don't know. So there's 7 of them, I believe. So yeah, we don't know which numbered heaven this is that was joined to the earth. I'm guessing like the lowest one. But yeah, it asks more questions than it answers, really, and that's just too ayah. So
right,
like,
it's so much. Yeah, it's so much you can expose. Like the Quran is like this. It's so disorganized that you don't have to read it to expose it, because it's not organized anyway. You just go to the parts that is going to contradict itself. Now, this is another thing, Kay, a big point. How can something uncreated have contradictions in it?
yeah, I'm going with you. Yeah.
How can something uncreated?
No, not even that. How can God, who is all-knowing and perfect, have any contradictions? Like, he can't,
Exactly.
because he's the creator of all. He's the author and finisher of my faith anyway. So I don't know how an all-knowing, all-powerful being could possibly contradict even themselves. Like, I don't understand that.
And Kay, I want to bring something else up to point. You know how Muslims say, because we're gonna clear the whole table right here. You know how Muslims say that Allah cannot enter into creation?
Yeah, I've heard that many times.
Okay. Can you pull up that Bible verse? As a matter of fact, let me pull this verse up. You know the verse, hold up. Give me 1 second, Kay.
Yeah.
Okay. The Bible had it right all the while. The Quran had it wrong.
Shaka.
I'm gonna tell you what I'm talking about. Muslims say that Muhammad, now I'm a deep thinker. I'm a metaphysicist, I'm a deep thinker. Muslims say that Allah does not enter into creation. I'm about to bust that right now. It don't make sense. Here's why, Kay. Me and you, we have eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Although you can't see my eyes, we both have eyes, and our eyes are connected to our brain.
Yeah.
So everything we see that appears to be outside of us is really taking place internally inside of us, because the brain processes the images.
Yeah.
So basically, the outside is an illusion.
Well, the outside is happening, but the processing of the outside can only take place on the inside. So if there are no eyes to see, the things do exist, but not for the person. So not for me. If my eyes are covered, I can't tell you how many fingers you're holding up. I can't access reality. Yeah.
Everything is a projection of the brain. Even what you think you're feeling from the outside, you couldn't feel it without your brain processing
nerves in your brain. Yeah.
Your spinal cord and everything. Everything is taking place internal. That's why I said that the outside is an illusion. So everything that you see is processing your brain. Everything that you hear is processing your brain. Everything you taste is processing your brain. Everything you smell, your nose, your nasal passages, they right under your, right there under your brain. Everything is taking place in your brain. That's why you are basically your brain. Your body is basically like,
is a vehicle for a driver. Yeah.
It's kind of like the computer stand that holds up the computer, which is the brain.
Mm-hmm.
So your brain is the functioning computer headquarters of your body. Your arms and legs and all of that is just
The
attached.
control room.
Yeah, to the brain. Now, this is the point I'm making. Okay, everything, if Allah is all seeing, right? That means everything that he beholds is taking place what? Within his consciousness. So just like for us, how can you be outside of what's taking place on the inside of you? Because whatever Allah is looking at, it's been processed internally within his consciousness. And that's why I'm about to read this verse from the Bible that proves what I'm saying.
Okay.
It's been in the Christian Bible. This piece of metaphysics, I'm telling you, has been in the Christian Bible before the Quran was invented.
And what verse are you going to read for us, Jacob?
All right, okay. Pull up, if you would, Acts 17:28 KJV, King James Version.
Yeah.
Acts 17:28. You exist outside of that. That don't even make sense when everything is linked to your consciousness. How can you exist outside of your consciousness? That's what the Muslims say. But we about to show that in the Bible, it had already had it right. All that while, the Bible had it right. So Acts 17:28.
There you go. It's right there.
Okay. I'm about to read it.
Yeah.
Acts 17:28. For in him we live and move and have our what? Being. As certain also of your own prophets have said, for we are all his offspring. That means we are the offspring of his thoughts, of his creation from inside of him, because it tells you, for in him we live and move and have our being.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't that what I was just saying?
Yeah.
Everything's taking place on the side.
Yeah, because God is, our God is powerful enough to enter creation, not with not one eye or whatever we were discussing earlier, the hen toes, but our God is literally everywhere at the same time.
Everywhere.
So we must live in him, we must move in him, and have our being in him. Yeah, and we are his children. Yeah.
Yeah, so my question to the Muslims is, after reading this verse, which makes so much sense, even scientifically, like the example I explained with the eye and the brain process and everything on the inside, if Allah is outside of everything, when he looks at things, where does he process it? Where is it taking place?
I think that's why he has to have the arrangement with Jibril, and with Muslims having I think a jinn on either shoulder, or an angel. I can't remember, to be honest. That weigh their good deeds and their bad deeds. But there's a hadith that says an angel will not come somewhere where there's the ringing of a bell, or I think a dog. Yeah.
I was just about to say that, what you just said.
Yeah.
That's good. So as you see, the way Muslims describe Allah, he doesn't exist. Even, let's break down the usage of words, right? All words were created to navigate through a tangible universe. That's the only reason why you need words. To navigate through a tangible
ideas, to be able to function, to be able to socialize, yeah.
Because we learn through word and picture association. Apple, flash a card with a red apple, make the vowel sound for You teach a child how to read through word and picture association. All words were created for a tangible universe. Muslims say that Allah is outside of everything. He is intangible. He is inconceivable. and he is incomprehensible to the human mind. If that's the case, then how can you apply any word to something that exists outside of the tangible universe where words were created to be used at in the first place? So that means every word in the Quran that's related to Allah, it falls flat on its face.
Yeah, for sure.
Because when you say the word he, the word he, that wasn't created for a being outside of everything that's inconceivable, incomprehensible, and intangible. No words in the dictionary was created for beings like that. In fact, you can't even call Allah a being, because the word being begins with the prefix be. You got to be somewhere to be a being. You got to be N-G, being inside of something, in a body, a physical structure. So to even call Allah a being, you are miscommunicating, and you are inappropriately
describing qualities that do not befit him.
Right. You inappropriately using the word. It's a misusage of words. So every word in the Quran that's directed to Allah is a misusage of words. So here's another thing. Islam is sexist. Because out of all
wait, can we just Allah, can we get that groundbreaking news again? Islam is what?
Islam is sexist. And I'm gonna tell you
why. I don't believe you. Prove it.
With these words. I'm gonna tell you why. Here's why, Kay. Because Allah is not a gender. So why call him a he? Why does it matter? Why can't he be a she? Why can't she be a he? Why pick he instead of saying she? So the Muslims say she, I worship Allah, my she God, but it's not a gender anyway. So why does it matter if you call it she or he? Because either way, you are misappropriating the word. I just explained that words were created for things in the tangible universe. So if you're going to call Allah a he, which is not really a he because he doesn't fall under that definition, why not just say a she? So from now on, I'm going to refer to Allah as she. So Muslims worship she.
No, you can't do that, because that would imply that she is only half as intellectually efficient as a male counterpart. Because as we know, Muhammad had never seen, like the women he knew anyway were deficient in mind and religion, and they were all she. So that's also unbefitting to Allah's majesty. Sorry.
Right.
But yeah.
No, it's all good. Like, everything we saying is tying and connecting. Like, I don't know how much time we got left, but
we do another maybe 5 minutes, and then
Okay. What could I touch on in 5 minutes? You want to pull up Surah 2106?
Yeah, but I think that's going to be a long one for you. But I will. Maybe we'll stop. Maybe we'll cut this. Like, maybe we can pause and do it again. I'll get it up for you for sure. Anyway.
You want to save the Surah 2106?
I think so. What I would.
If only 5 minutes.
Yeah. What I would reiterate, just in closing. So I would reiterate. Oh gosh, there's so many things we've touched on, but for sure, Allah has entered into time and space, because we know that Muslims will eventually recognize him in his true form. So he has a shape. A shape must be, by definition, in creation, because even when they look towards him, their eyes, with their 150,000 light sensitive nerve endings, they are also in creation. It's a miracle of our God's creation that the human eye exists in such a way that it relays information, it flips the image, it's interpreted by the brain that God gave us, women included, and they all fire on all cylinders. So that proves that Allah is not only in creation, because I've heard people argue, but they're just looking towards their Lord, but their sight is in creation. So if he can be perceived within creation, he is in some form in creation. Other than that, I would point out that an all-powerful God, so you could argue he just doesn't want to. That's absolutely fine. But what I've heard is he cannot enter creation. And that, for me, means he is not all-powerful. He doesn't have ultimate potentiality, because there is something he cannot do, or choose it or will not do. And to me, I know that the God of the Bible, who I serve, can do all things, and that I, through him, can do all things. That he, you know, his plans for us as Christians are to prosper us, not to harm us, to give us a future and a hope. That's what it says in Jeremiah. That's one of my favorite verses. And I just don't understand a God who advocates like some of the things. So if the other that's it. So when you say he, why is he called a he, Allah? I would suggest that that comes from Muhammad's veneration of the Torah. Literally, he placed it on a cushion. He said, I accept thee and the one who sent thee, which is Yahweh.
Right.
So Muhammad, venerated the Torah. Potentially, I imagine that in the Islamic narrative, it was yet to be corrupted in the 7th or 8th century, 7th century when he did that. But because Yahweh is known as Father, therefore we know that he has a male essence. And I think that's translated into the Quran because Allah claims ownership of the Torah and the Injil by saying that he revealed them in Hebrew, because obviously he learned a new language by then. So yeah, that's my wrap up. Have you got anything further to add?
Well, after what we said today, that's the nail in the coffin. I mean, it's nothing. It's no way you can logically refute anything that we said today. So next time we meet, we'll just go into Surah 2106 and some other things that I want to bring up, and we can just smash it. Because I'm the type of person. What I want to say is, I usually don't even debate Muslims until first they got to tell me what is it that you are worshiping. Because if I just wanted to disprove the Quran, I can just throw something at them like this. Just real quick, can you pull up, and this kind of relates to the coronavirus thing. Just real quick, can you pull up Surah 1435?
Yeah. So
just real quick. It's easy to destroy Islam.
Sorry, is this 1435?
Yes, yep. Surah 1435.
Okay, so it's Surah Ibrahim, and it's coming up ever so slowly. Yeah, here it is. Do you want me to read it?
Yes, you can read it.
So, and then bracketed, mention, O Muhammad, when Abraham said, my Lord, make this city, in brackets, Mecca, secure and keep me and my sons away from worshipping idols. And that's Surah 14, Ayah 35.
Okay, now, before I explain what I was saying, in the conclusion, when I'm dealing with Muslims, the first thing that I tell them is, first, because I really don't debate Muslims, I smash Muslims. I just smash their whole rhetoric before it gets off the ground.
Modesty as well.
And I stop them at the gate. Like, I bring up things like, who was Muhammad praying to? First, I say, before I talk to anybody about religion, you gotta tell me, what is it that you are worshiping? Is it a spirit? Is it an energy? Is it matter? What is Allah? They can't tell you what Allah is. At least the pagan Arabs had a stone or something that they could touch or could tell you. The Muslims today, he don't have anything. He doesn't even know what he's worshiping. He doesn't know where he's going in the afterlife. He doesn't have any clue, because Allah is not a spirit, because they are not connected to Allah. They are like a child with no umbilical cord. It's like they're just floating around like lost particles of matter through space with no connection to God. They don't know who God is. They don't have no umbilical cord.
There's no person, there can be no relationship with a slave master. So because there's no connection, no personal, like Allah, I don't know that he's touching the hearts of Muslims. And I've heard Muslims say that it causes them great anxiety not to know if Allah is pleased with their, with their performance of their rituals and their daily devotions and stuff like that. You can't ever be sure that he's satisfied And so it's an endless task of trying to please a God who's separate.
And there you go. And to cut it short,
Very sad.
Allah is the imagination of Muhammad. That's why they don't know who he is. Allah is Muhammad. It's whatever he said, because when Muhammad, you see how I'm saying Allah and Muhammad's twisting it up, because they really the same thing. So if I say Muhammad, I'm saying Allah. If I say Allah, I'm saying Muhammad. So when Muhammad was in the cave of Hira, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but he was in the cave, right? While he was in the cave, the Muslims were still worshiping Allah, the pagan god of the three daughters, the cranes. Remember the three cranes?
Alat, Al-Uzza, and Manat. Yeah.
Right. And notice how their names begin with Al.
Yeah, one of them is the feminine form of Allah. Yeah, Allah.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah.
Allah, Al-Lat, Al-Uzza. It's just pagan gods. So when Muhammad was in the cave of Hira, ask yourself, Muslims, who was he praying to? He was praying to the same Allah as the pagans.
As his
this
father.
was before the Qur'an. Yeah, and his father was named Abdullah, which means slave of Allah. Muhammad said himself that his father went to hell. So if his father went to hell and he was worshiping the same Allah that Muhammad was worshiping in the cave of Hira, and during this time, the only view that Muhammad had of Allah was just like every other pagan. He didn't have no Qur'an. He didn't have no monotheism. And while he was in the cave of Hira, the 360 idols were still being stored in the Kaaba. So while your prophet was in that cave praying to Allah, the idols were still being housed in the Kaaba. So tell me, who is he praying to? He's praying to the pagan deity. Now, how can you get a divine true revelation while praying to a pagan deity? That's telling you that the revelation that he got was from a demonic visitation, because you can't get a true revelation while praying to a false pagan god. So that's why
unlikely.
The Qur'an is false, because it didn't come from prayer to the real true God. It came from prayer to the Allah who had three daughters.
Yeah.
And then they want to, you know how they're so good to reject hadiths? When you think about it, the Quran itself is a hadith. What was that verse you had said?
It says,
what was that verse you had said?
Well, the verse that I just thought of is the challenge within the Quran to bring a hadith like this. So the hadith like this implies that the Quran is itself a hadith. So yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna piggyback off what you just said. The way Muslims are so fast to reject a hadith, even if it's a sahih. Anytime they hear something that doesn't support their rhetoric, they quick to reject it. But I'm about to get them busted. And I'm not doing this with no animosity. I'm doing this just to shine light. This is not no personal attack. I'm just talking about information. Now, the Quran itself is a weak hadith, because from the very start, the isnad, the chain of narration, is broken. Because the demon spirit that visited Muhammad, he didn't formally address himself. He didn't say who he was.
As angels do in the Bible, I might add.
Yeah, like the angels in the Bible do. That's like the angels in the Bible do. That's a real hadith that you can record back to who gave the narration. But when it comes to the Quran, the hadith the saying that Muhammad got in the cave, he don't know who the first narrator is. So from the very start, the Quran is a weak hadith, because they don't know who the narrator is. Who is the first narrator? The person, I believe one of Muhammad's relatives told him who.
Oh, he went to his wife, and his wife took him to Waraka, who was a heretical Christian, or an early, it's some sect of Christianity. So yeah, that's, I believe really that I suppose Waraka is the founder of Islam, because if he didn't say, yes, this is clearly Jibreel, and I don't know how he got the clearly Jabril, because Gabriel doesn't go around in the Bible throttling people or compelling them to read anything or recite. So I'm not sure on his ID techniques. I know he didn't have a photo fit. Like, I don't know how he just got to that massive conclusion. And also Hafs, the guy whose Quran is, I believe, Saudi Arabia accept the Hafs Quran. He himself, his own hadith, other than the Quran, are also mainly considered weak, because he is recorded, as people who watch Christian Prince will see, that he is a weak narrator because of his dishonesty. So he's accused of stealing books and basically like plagiarizing other people's stuff. So to not accept his hadith as weak, but to accept his Quran, to me, is just mind-boggling. I don't understand it.
And to add to that, Kate, have you heard that hadith that says that Muhammad said that anybody who made up a false hadith about him would go into the hellfire? Have you heard that one?
I think I might have. Hell is going to be pretty
busy.
Bring it
up next show.
Sorry?
Yeah, we can bring it up next show. But we can bring it up next show.
I'll line it up for another time.
Yeah, because it says, so that means the Quran that they have today, the Hafs narration, they are narrating the words of a man that's right now presently in hell. And to add to what she said, or to add what I was saying, like Warwica, as she just said, is the one who told Muhammad that it was Jibril. So that proves my point that the Quran is a weak hadith, because the eyewitness report was not there. You can't take an eyewitness from somebody else that's not even on the scene. Where they do that at? The courtroom won't accept anything like that. And this is another thing. You was talking about he was a Catholic or something you had said. So that proves that.
Oh, a heretical Christian.
Yeah, a Christian, a heretical Christian.
Yeah.
So that means from the gate, Islam borrowed from the Bible, using a angel name from the Bible, a Hebrew name, because it ends with L.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that's a Hebrew.
Yeah.
Why doesn't it have an Arabic name? It's a Hebrew name, so that means it's borrowed from the Judeo-Christian.
The true name from El Gabor, from God, like actual Yahweh. So yeah.
Like
the thing is, if Arabic is the divine language of Allah, his preferred like mother tongue, I don't know how to say it, then why is he busy sending 124,000 prophets to different nations in their own tongue? Because if he is an all-powerful God, he could make Arabic some kind of like encoded into your DNA almost. He could make people understand it, because with the Holy Spirit, we are able to discern and understand things that without it, like, so Christians reading the Bible have a completely different experience from non-Christians, because we have discernment and we have the Spirit to guide us in wisdom and in truth. So yeah, I think we're gonna.
That's a brilliant point.
We have to wrap it up though. So what are your final thoughts?
Well, my final thought is about what you just said. Why couldn't Allah encode? Because when you read the Bible at Pentecost, God gave them the ability to understand every language. Like the apostles, when they went out, they could understand. So Allah,
each heard it in their own tongue.
Yeah, he did it. So that's a good point that you made. But in closing, like I say, Islam to me is not, I don't call it debating. It's just pointing out the illogical things and statements within Islam, the contradictions within Islam, like everything I said today. Like I don't see how it's hard or to get tangled up, like you stuck and can't have an answer to the question a Muslim asks you, or you can't refute what they say. It's so easy to destroy. Like I was asking you, like to bring up, like, oh, I didn't mention this. This will be my last thing. That's Surah 1435. Okay, in that verse that you put up, when you read the tafsir on that verse by Jalalain, that's a covenant that Abraham, that Allah made with Abraham. And Allah granted the covenant. And when you read a tafsir, it tells you that Allah was supposed to secure Mecca and that no blood was supposed to be spilled in Mecca. So from that verse alone, you may as well just trash the Quran, because when you do your history, and even in the Islamic sources, Mecca was overthrown by a man by the name of Carmati. And you can look it up. They call it the Carmatians, something like that. Mm-hmm. And what they did is he stole the black stone. Mm. He killed Muslims, and he killed the Muslim pilgrims who was at Hajj, stole the black stone, and he threw their bodies in the Zamzam well, which is in Mecca.
Yeah.
And
it's where Hagar and Ishmael found secure in the wilderness. Yeah.
He spilled their blood and everything, but Surah 1435 says that Allah was supposed to secure Mecca. And not only that, but the Muslims had to pay a ransom to get the black stone back. Allah didn't get it back for them. They had to go out their pockets. They had to pay a ransom. There's another hadith that says that the black stone is the right hand of Allah. So you telling me
it's that today, hang on, Muslims. It's going to grow a mouth at the end of time. I know I'm running out of time, but at the end of time, the Kaaba will grow a mouth and it will vouch. It tells us that far from being the house of Abraham, or, you know, a comet or whatever it's supposed to be, it's only there to differentiate between Muslims and non-Muslims and to point out Jews who are hiding, you know. So it's got multiple functions, even though in the Quran or the Hadith, I'm not sure, we're told that it just has the one function, which is to justify Muslims before Allah. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
They say, like you said, in the last days, it's supposed to grow a mouth, tongue, and testify on who touched it and all of that. How is it supposed to do that? And today, the black stone is broken up into tiny pieces. Muslims have to glue it together just to hold it up in the corner of the Kaaba. There's a hadith that says that the black stone is the right hand of Allah. So you telling me that the right hand of Allah was stolen and broken into 7 pieces, and this is the same
it can't end creation, so I don't know how.
Yeah, it entered creation, and this is the same stone that Muhammad said in a hadith that if you rub it, it will erase your sins. So this stone will grant you salvation, but the very stone that you're supposed to rub to grant you salvation, it couldn't even save itself from getting stolen and broken into 8 pieces. So you telling me you betting upon a stone being able to wipe away your sins, but this very stone with this magical power couldn't even save itself, keyword salvation, couldn't even save itself from being stolen and broken into pieces, but you believe that rubbing a broken stone that couldn't save itself from devastation will wipe away your sins.
Muslims, repent and come to Christ. I don't know what else to say. Like, I think that wraps it up nicely, but a stone is not going to save you. There are Bible verses about, like, literally worshipping stones and wood. It will avail you nothing. Sins cannot be erased. They can only be justified by the blood of Christ, as we know. And thank you very much, Jacob, for coming to speak to me. And we're going to do some more of these videos, and you'll be seeing those soon.
I'm gonna get back on that stone next time, because y'all not gonna escape that stone. I got more to go into about that stone.
No worries.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Also remember that Jacob's channel on YouTube is The False Prophet. Ironically,
False prophet.
I don't know if he just pulled that out of the air and then found one to polemicize. But anyway, thanks very much, and we'll talk again soon. God bless everybody in the comments. All right, bye.